Ah, well, what a treat to be back again. COVID kept us apart. So we are now all older and I hope wiser and more creative than pre-COVID. I always believe that one of the best benefits that came out of that time was this technology. You know, I think during COVID, I went to more poetry readings and literary events than I had done in the 10 years before. So when Sheila was talking about this hybrid, I had no concept. I'm thinking I'm going to be looking at a little computer screen and trying. So this is just brilliant. So thanks to the library and all the support of the library staff for doing this. So what's nice to have people I can hug and people I can shake hands with again, and people that some people I don't know. So what a pleasure to meet you all. When I do these workshops, I usually ask Sheila and Jean, well, what do you want me to workshop on? You know, and so they sent me some suggestions and I picked out two. So we have a hybrid workshop today, two-parter. They asked me to address the whole process of submitting and what that entails and what are some of the things I've learned along the way. And then secondly, what about the literary device of setting within the context of poetry? Now, what I'm thinking is if you're not a poet, you're forgiven. We won't hold that against you. So a lot of what I say about submitting and setting can also be used in all kinds of tropes. So let your mind go to your genre, although I will be focused mostly on poetry. So let me start off with this submitting topic. How many of you have already gone through the process of submitting a piece to a journal or an anthology? Okay. What's been your experience?
It's varied. It's on where.
Okay, you want to talk, Robin? You want to talk into the mic?
Okay, can you hear me okay now? Where's the mic, in the front?
Yeah, it's that piece.
Okay. Well, I mean, the easiest one so far has been ours because we submit what we want to submit, basically, although sometimes we get categories to fit. So sometimes we can send just anything we want to, but and there's a limitation on how many pieces and how long it can be altogether. That's a positive experience, but I'd like to get out to more of an audience and make some money. So, writing is what I really do and do well. It'd be nice to make money on it. I have occasionally. By far, I've only been paid, like handful of times for anything. But one thing paid well, and that was the Salvation Army's War Cry. I wrote an article for that.
Oh, excellent.
It paid over $400.
Wow. Yeah.
How much did they pay you?
$400 for an article.
Wow.
That's outstanding. For the poets in the room, forget about it. Yeah, very infrequently do we get paid. And when it does happen, it's like, hallelujah.
Yeah, my friend and I both tried to submit to Rattle because they paid well for poetry. They probably get tons and tons and tons of stuff. But it seems like even though they say they'll publish a variety of things, all kinds of things, it doesn't seem like they publish kind of things that made me write.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Rattle in a little bit. Yeah, good. Thanks, Robin. Anybody else want to share an experience with submitting? Anybody out? And Sheila?
Yeah, I've made a point of never submitting anywhere that I have to pay for. So I've never been paid for anything that's been published, but there's one time I submitted to an anthology and they emailed me and said, no, we don't like your submission, but if you want to rewrite it, you can resubmit. And they told me what they didn't like about it. So I rewrote it and I got in, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. And
so I've had quite a few rejections, quite a few acceptances, and that was an in-between.
Right. I want to honor your willingness to do the rewrite, because I've come across some writers, both poets and prose writers, that, oh no, I'm not going to touch this. This is mine, this is my intent, etc. come on, oftentimes the editor has a good reason for asking you to do the rewrite because it probably needed to be rewritten. So I just want to, applaud you for doing that and then for their having the wisdom to accept it. So nice going, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? I was thinking there is a lot that has to happen before we're ready to submit. Okay, number one, life. Life happens. We get up in the morning, we go to work, or we have family, or we have hobbies, or we go out to a restaurant, or we come to a library, we're out driving in our car. And one of the things that I've realized for any writer of any genre is we need to be awake and aware of the world around us and the world inside us more often than we are. I read recently, according to some expert, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. No wonder I have headaches. And this researcher said 90% of those 60,000 thoughts are repeats. That's a little discouraging. What would happen if we started the practice of paying attention to what's going on with those thoughts and what's going on in the outer world? Because my experience is every single moment of every single day is grist for the writer's mill. For example, about a month ago, I've been in my home out in Happy Valley for 20 years. In fact, it'll be 20 years this week. For the first time, we had mice. Luckily, what they have in the garage. And, make a long story short, we got those traps, just the little rinky-dink ones where you put the cheese or the peanut butter or whatever. In the experience and the process of capturing 9 mice over the course of the month, I got 3 poems. Paying attention to what I was terrified of. And I hate killing anything. I hate killing ants. If there's a spider in the house, I want to walk the spider out. Yeah, but the point is there was an opportunity, new experience for me. And so the process of killing those mice with those big black eyes that just stare up at you. No. It broke my heart. But they gave me poems, right?
I'm glad they weren't rats.
I'm glad they weren't rats too, Jean. Thank you. Yeah. Or just the other morning, I was having difficulty with a poem, and it was a hard poem to write, and I didn't know where to go with it. And I'm looking out my kitchen window, and we've got beautiful maple trees in the backyard. They're about 20 years old. And I'm looking at the trunks, there are several of them. And all of a sudden, I'm back being a kid climbing a neighbor's apple tree. So looking at the present moment, being aware of the formation, sent me back to that childhood memory. And that was the key to finishing my poem. I needed an image, and that was it. So the simple fact of the matter is we have to wake up. I mean, how many great writers, from Mary Oliver to Jane Hirschfield, say, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So that's where writing starts. It's paying attention. And then, of course, there's writing, and revising, and revising, and revising. And then there's writing, and then there's revising, and then there's submitting, and then there's revising, and then there's publishing. And all of it's work. When you really get into submitting, it can become a part-time job. In fact, I often will spend just 2 hours a day when I'm in the submitting mode, going through. And I've got some sites for you to take a look at, to see where my work might fit, where I want to send them. It's work, and it takes time. And then, of course, when you get published, it takes time to get the congratulations out, and to thank the editors and to share on your Facebook page or your blog or wherever. It's all work, but it starts with living and being awake. So now, having given you that lecture about my process for getting to submitting, let's talk about some of the ideas that I've gathered along the way. First of all, two major pieces of advice, and this takes work. Only send out your best work. And that means taking the time to have people who are astute in your genre taking a look at it. So that's what community, the writing community can be helpful. Taking workshops where you're learning craft and you're getting feedback. There's an old saying, if you want to get better at tennis, play with someone better than you. So if you want to get better at writing, play with someone who has at least perceivably more skill, who has done the work and can kindly, of course, show you how to get back on track, or at least make some suggestions. So it's the best work. And I have to admit to you, I get to be impatient sometimes, that I'll send out a piece that I finished it and I'm so excited. I haven't shared it with anybody, but I want to get it out. Too rattle. All right. And when I reread it after I sent it, I was so embarrassed that I actually withdrew it. So my impatience is a fact. And I keep learning my lesson. Just wait until I've got some good colleagues who give me that kind of feedback. Wait until it is the best it can be now. But you know what the interesting thing about publishing poetry is? You can get it published in a magazine, but then when you want to put it in a book, let's say, you can change it. It's not the Pieta, it's not the Mona Lisa. So that it's not written in stone, and I would imagine even a short story or an essay that gets republished somewhere in a place that takes already published pieces, that indeed you have, because you're growing, or you're recognizing a better image, or you've had experience that can enrich what you've already written.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
If you send in a poem to a journal or magazine that's copyrighted, I mean, you're published, can you then submit it to something else if you change it? And how much do you think you would have to change it in order to republish it without violating copyright?
What you own the copyright. Every publication that I've submitted to, every anthology I've submitted to, always says, and we'll talk about guidelines, read the guidelines. Copyright reverts to the author upon publication.
Oh.
So it's yours to do. They may say, we want to keep it in our archives, and so that's the way it's going to be in their archives. But you can then take it, because it's going to be in a book someday, perhaps, or as you'll see in a few moments, there are publications that take previously published work. Now, they're few and far between, but they do that.
Yeah.
Then you can change it. So the copyright's yours.
What if it's a publisher that doesn't take republished works?
Oh,
Can you still send something in that's changed?
yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, it would have to be so dramatically different that it's a different piece.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
take the time to write something. Yeah. It would probably be not realistic to think that they're gonna look up the original piece if you send it to some, but you know what, I wouldn't, you don't wanna, yeah. Okay, that's just me. Robin.
Yeah, I have I'm working on a novel that started with a short story that I did publish a long time ago.
Mhm.
And so I've been asking that kind of question, and some people were saying, well, if anything was the same about it, it's not going to be accepted somewhere, it's considered a reprint. I mean, it was just for kind of a taking off place, that short story,
Yeah,
but, the same character names and so forth, and, I didn't change that. But,
since I don't have expertise in novels, it would seem to me I would do some inquiry. That, as you send the manuscript in, just make a note to the editor, would like to let you know that pages so-and-so to so-and-so have been previously published in a different format and then
Yeah.
name the journal, name the date, so that they can see that. You just want to keep it clean.
Right.
You know, it may not be a problem at all, but for your own peace of mind, because I'd be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering, oh my God, did they? Will they find me out? Exactly, yeah, exactly, so, right. Okay, and that then leads me to the second major point, guidelines. Publications have guidelines for a reason, and although it's a hassle to have to read them, you have to read them. What I find to be true is that there are the same guidelines repeated over and over again. You know, the number of pieces of, you know, the number of poems, the number of lines in a poem, or the number of words in a short story or a slice of memoir, okay? And then they do some weird things every once in a while. I've had publications that say 25 syllables in a poem, which is really fun. I like that kind of challenge, you know? Or one I got my hand slapped on just recently, 250 words in a poem. I'm not used to counting words in a poem. Lines, yes, but not words. So every once in a while, they get you. And two new things coming down the pike. AI. Right? You start to read guidelines, and I would say probably 9.9 out of 10 publications are saying no AI. Okay? However, just found, you know, and every once in a while, it's maybe 0.1%, they will say we do accept AI inspired. I just found this from a publishing house that I was interested in sending a manuscript to. Listen to this. In exceptional circumstances, blank blank press is willing to publish manuscripts that incorporate AI-driven content in insightful or innovative ways. But authors must indicate how and where such content has been used. If your work incorporates AI-driven content, please include a brief descriptive note to this effect as part of your cover letter. I've not seen this before. Okay, so this is, you know, so this is then an editor relying on the honesty, the integrity
Or
of,
even the knowledge of AI is in more places in your life than you might even know.
precisely, yeah, precise, you know, you're absolutely right.
Advertising,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
everything.
Yeah, the phone cues you get, exactly. But then it comes to publishing. I took a class, a webinar. I couldn't stand staying in that webinar because this is so out of my realm of expertise. Man and woman were so excited about generating material based on AI. So the whole point was, you know, in order to get a product out of AI, the input has to be very clear. For example, a setting, a character, a plot, a time frame. So this guy on the webinar plugged in all of these factors and asked for the opening paragraph of a novel. And what came out was something extraordinary. And I thought that whole novel could be written by AI. So brave new world. Okay, so that's one thing to look for in guidelines. And then, you know, the second thing, what has been the usual is people will say no previously published work, including social media. So that means if something's on your website, if something's in your blog, according to this guideline, you cannot submit it unless you take it off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it had ever been on.
Well, okay, so maybe I'm wrong about that, but I thought, well, that would be my way out. I would take it off right away, and then how would they?
Then it's not, and they won't know.
And they won't know. So it's not on my Facebook or it's not on my blog, just delete it. But anyway, you know what? Okay, so here's the movement, and I hope this really goes through. Tim Green, the editor of Rattle, he's saying, you know, here we are writers. We write a poem, we write a story. We want to share it with our friends and our family. So we put it on whatever social media that you use. He said, why not let that happen? Why not share that work? And let's redefine what previously published is. And his terminology now is something is previously published if it has been curated by an editor and published in a magazine. So that it has been reviewed, it has been accepted, it has been published by a bona fide editor in a bona fide publication. It's curated, not self-published on a blog.
So in the realm of poetry, would that mean anything like a self-published chapbook or something?
Yeah.
You could,
Well,
not,
see, now this is a whole different thing. He's talking about individual poems. Now, here's, this is tell me your name again, I'm so sorry.
I don't know that I said it, I read late, sorry,
Yeah.
Nora.
Nora. Here's the thing about chapbooks, even if it's self-published, okay? If you want to use some of those poems in a full collection, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it was just an example of not being curated, not being edited, not being vetted through a process.
Right, okay. What my experience with publishers is, and because I'm going through this right now, the publisher of a full-length manuscript will say, X number of pieces may have already appeared in a chapbook.
Okay,
Okay,
so same thing, just transparency of.
that's it. Yeah, one publisher said 30% of the poems. Another publisher said 6 to 7%. I'm sorry, 6 or 7 poems from a previous chapbook, or even if you had 2 chapbooks, but just 6 or 7 out of all those chapbooks.
Thank you.
So yeah, so that's the neat thing about a chapbook, that you can use that material again, but in limited amounts. Okay, good. Yeah, sure.
It seems to me that you can put something on your page in Facebook, a piece, if you don't make it public. If it's only your
Private
people,
page.
those are the only people who see it. If
That's
you
a
make
good
it
point.
public, then you run into something else.
Yeah, archiving could happen without even your knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very good point. Yeah, so make it private.
I make it private, I don't do anything public.
Yeah,
And I
Or
write
like
it all.
a Substack where you have to have subscribers for.
right. Good, yeah, good. Well, thank you. No, thank you for that. Sure, okay.
Yeah, and just for reference, when you give us something for our e-zines, that's private because it's password protected, so it doesn't count as published to anybody.
Oh, good point. Thanks, Sheila.
Wait, Sheila, say that again? I'm sorry.
We do a monthly e-zine online for our group, but it's private, it's password protected, so it doesn't
Right.
count as published.
There you go. Good. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. Good. See, that's why I need you. Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And the final thing I want to say, just about this section here is you may make a mistake. We're human. Like I sent more than 250 words in a poem, right? So I got my hand slapped. And I've been a poetry editor. And so I know people make mistakes, and I hope I'm kind in letting them know and not slapping them. But yeah, so guidelines are there for a reason. All righty, so then can we move on? Just, some tips. How many of you are already subscribers to Submittable?
I think I used to be.
Okay, you need to be, okay? You need to subscribe. It's free, all right? So many publications have that as their
I
vehicle.
thought they went to charging.
No, they don't charge.
Most participants.
Yeah, no, Submittable doesn't charge. What gets charged is if the publication now is using Submittable as their way to access material. If they go over a certain number of submissions a month, then they may be charged. Years ago when I was doing the editing, it was a matter of maybe 300 submissions. And then anything over that, then the publication, yeah, it's a lot. Publication would be, but Rattle like that gets, 10,000 a year. So it's, yeah, they pay for submittable, but us writerly folk, we don't have to pay for it. This is an absolute must. Okay, and then I gave you a whole series of sites that you can browse through to find calls for submissions. The first one, I'll make it just a couple of comments on some of these. The first one, Authors Publish. I'm going to strongly recommend this one because they do offer free craft talks, webinars, memoir, short story, publication, marketing, poetry. And what I love about them is that you sign up for it. If you're not available at the day and the time of that webinar, they will send you the link. And so then you can see it at your convenience. So there's one example of their site. I would sign up for that. New Pages, another one. New Pages, I just went back to it again today. They do accept all genres, or they call for submissions for all genres, and all you'd have to do is filter through to get whatever genre you want. Another benefit of Submittable, I just found this just about a year ago. Up at the top, there is a link called Discover, and it is a whole series of submissions. And you can filter according to poetry, short story, essay, what have you. You can also filter it for pay or not pay. Does the publication charge a fee or not? And I'll say a few words about that in a few moments. Okay. Then a whole bunch of Facebook groups. The first two, the magazine publishers and the anthologies, all genres. And then the other two, No Fee Call for Poems, and Writers Post, No Fee Call for Poems, obviously poetry. The next one, Poetry Society, obviously poetry. Then Heavy Feathers Review. This is a real good compendium because they will give you presses, chapbooks, journals, anthologies, fellowships, all genres. So this is a treasure trove. Yeah, I just found a place, as I was looking at this yesterday, where I may want to send a manuscript because it really looked good. So that's a great site. Okay, and then publishing and other forms of insanity. This is literary magazines that accept reprints. I love them, and I've had a lot of reprints republished. If you have a piece in a book or you have a piece in another journal, that's a small audience. So to have as many audience as possible, I'm all for it. And then the last one there, Duotrope. Okay, this is the one that charges. This is $50 a year. You get it every week. You can filter it according to genres. And sometimes I'll find something really good. And they also have a submission manager called DuoSumo that some publications are using because I believe it's free, those publications. And so they don't do Submittable, they don't have their own portals, they do use Duotrope. And I've had some success with that, but that's $50 a year. And I'm not saying don't do it, there's lots out there, but it's just another option. Okay. Would anybody have any questions or comments about any? Yeah, Robin.
You don't have the submission grinder listed.
Oh, honey, I couldn't do all of them, and you probably know. See, probably all of you know things that I don't know. So yeah,
I can't remember if they do poetry ones, if it's just for stories. I can't poetry.
Okay, so it's called submission.
Submission grinder. It's something like diabolicalplots.com.
No wonder I don't have it. I don't have anything diabolical. No, okay, good. Well, thank you, Robin. That's great. Diabolical. All right.
It's not all for diabolical.
There you go. There you go. Okay, and then just some things to avoid. Toss up on this, publications that charge a fee, unless you really want to be in that publication. What I'm thinking is $3 to $5 is reasonable. If any of you are old enough to remember the days when you had to mail things in and put a self-addressed stamped envelope in, that's money. And given the fact that postage is now going up another 5%, another 5 cents rather, $3 to $5 is reasonable. It doesn't mean that you have any better chance of, getting in. And they have tip jars. Have you seen that? Make a donation. What I've learned about the tip jar is you publish me and then I'll make a donation. I'm cheap. What can I say? But I usually avoid those that charge a fee unless this is a publication I really want to be in. And then publications that don't allow simultaneous submissions. Okay. I have at one time, and right now I have probably same poems out to 15 different publications. Okay? Because if I have to wait and wait and wait, I'm waiting too long. So yeah, I really avoid, they say we don't accept simultaneous submissions unless they say we get back to you within a few days or a week. And I gave you a couple of the journals that do respond very, very quickly. So, yes, Laura?
Oh, sorry, are those specific to poetry? One are in,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yes.
But if you, submit like 15 different, or the same poem to 15 different places, and then you get accepted by one, then you gotta go back and remember, or I'm sure you keep track.
I'm gonna show you how to keep
Still,
track.
you
Yeah,
gotta go back and let them all know that.
precisely. Yeah, and in fact, I think I just did a hyperbole. I don't send them out to 15 different, maybe 5 to 7. It's a little bit more manageable. Yeah, but I do have a system to keep track of all that, because once it's accepted, it needs to be withdrawn immediately from the other publications. Yeah, I think I was just too excited. 15, no, that's ridiculous, okay? Yeah, so, be aware of the simultaneous stuff. And then, this is just my thing. Publications say they don't respond for more than 4 to 6 months. I'm dying. And what I'm hoping is I'm already published someplace else. I'm saying, I'm not waiting for you. Again, the proviso would be if it's someplace I really, really, really want to be in, then I will. But I don't have to talk about patience. I don't have the patience to wait for 4 to 6 months. Okay. All righty. Well, then coming down the stretch here, time-saving tips. One of the things that keeps people from submitting is when they're asked for a cover letter. And I would just like to recommend that you write a generic cover letter that you use for almost every time you submit. They don't know. Go ahead.
question about that.
Yeah.
Do you do a different cover letter for each piece? No, okay, just because I've also recently been writing a query letter for a novel, and each of those ought to be customized to the agent, or the agency. But I've not got any experience with poetry submissions, so
Yeah.
you can use a pretty generic cover letter.
Yeah, and one of my friends says what she does, and this, see, this doesn't save me any time. She says that she writes, let me just step back. If you can, always address the cover letter to the appropriate editor or editors. If you can find on their homepage, their masthead. And if they have a whole slew of editors, take the managing editor, and if it's poetry, the poetry editor, or the fiction editor, and editorial staff or end editorial team. Okay, so what she does, and this why I really admire her, it takes time. She says she will tell them how much she admires their journal, especially this piece that was just, that's time. I'm lazy. Okay. So my cover letter is basically my artist statement. You want to hear my cover letter? No, nobody wants to hear it. All right.
Yes, please.
Okay, so as when you're listening to this, this can go anywhere. And this probably could serve with different quotations for any kind of prose. So here's my cover letter. Dear so-and-so, dear Robin, dear Matthew, dear Jean, dear Pam, dear Nora. After decades of writing poetry, I've discovered that my aesthetic is embodied in Jack Kerouac's comment in Dharma Bones. One day I will find the right words and they will be simple. And in Galway Kinnell's statement, to me, poetry is somebody standing up and saying with as little concealment as possible what it is to be on earth at this moment. My poems attempt to be simple in words as they grapple with the complexity of being on earth right now. So that's my aesthetic. And that doesn't take any time to cut and paste. So once you get it, you got it. Okay, but then, you know, I totally want to honor Nora that when you're dealing with an agents or you're dealing with, you know, different publishing houses for something like a novel, that's a whole different ballgame. That's way beyond.
Well, thank you. That's why I asked,
Yeah.
because I have poetry that I'd be interested in
Well, good,
trying. but
good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, excellent, excellent. All righty. Let me see. So, oh yeah, and then bios, right? You know, again, people say, oh my God, I gotta go different. No, you can use the same bio. You know, however, some guidelines say 50 words. Some guidelines say more. Some guidelines say only use 3 of your previous publications. So again, you can have a whole series of guidelines. I mean, a whole series of bios. I'm sorry, folks on the screen here won't have this advantage, but over on the table, I brought a whole series of anthologies. And you take 1 or 2 or whatever. In the back are all kinds of bios. So folks on Facebook, you know, take a look at journals, take a look at anthologies, and just read the bios and all the different ways of approaching, see? Okay, so here's my less than 50-word bio. Blissfully retired in Clackamas, Oregon, Carolyn Martin is a lover of gardening and snorkeling, feral cats and backyard birds, writing and photography. Her poems have appeared in more than 200 journals throughout North America, Australia, and the UK. Find out more at. Okay, so it's personal. You know, I don't want to list publications, you know, again, I'm lazy. So that's basically, I've counted them, there's more than 200, right? Okay. So have canned bios, the way you have canned cover letters, save a lot of time. Okay, and then here's a biggie, the spreadsheet. Now, yeah, now you can do this Excel, you can do this in a notebook, you can do anything. But if you're sending stuff out, you do have to keep track. Okay, so mine has the title of the pieces, the publication, deadline, the date sent, contact information, any notes. Like, you know, how much money I paid to send these these wonderful poems to, so then I also have a spreadsheet for poems that have been declined and poems that have been accepted. So I won't be embarrassed to send to a publication a poem I've already had declined from them, you know, versus I won't be sending out to other publications poems that I've already had accepted, which can be totally embarrassing. So yeah, you really need to, you know, when you get into the process of doing more and more submitting, you know, how do you track? And you know, and make sure that you update. And as Jean said, that once something is accepted, then you have to go back. And what I didn't say here is, if you saw my spreadsheet under the titles, I've color coded. And as the titles are repeated, so these light blue, here's another light blue, same poem, and all of this. So that right away, visually, I can see. And then the contact information, visually, I know where to go. And when it's on submittable, thank heaven, then it's pretty easy. Okay, and then coming down the pike here, some final ideas. Here are some journals that do accept previously published poems. Here are some, this I love, some sites that publish poems that have been rejected by others. And I've had some success with redheaded, how do you like that? Redheaded stepchild. And then I love this other one. Unfortunately, I've been rejected again from unfortunately. It's a double unfortunately, right? Yeah, and you know, and talking about rejections, New term now, declined. We've been declined, not rejected. Yeah, one editor said, oh, I don't reject anyone, I decline their work. Okay. I've had to come to grips with rejections. Does anybody have a problem with rejections? No, Pam, see, look at, you're not a problem. Yeah, I used to agonize, oh my heavens. Now I get rejected, I still get the little punch in the tummy, but it lasts for 5 minutes instead of 5 days. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, it's a crapshoot sometimes. You know, you don't know whether the editor already received, 25 poems about a dying dog, and then you have your dying dog poem. Or they're having a bad day, or they truly don't like your aesthetic, and that's okay. My thing is, it wasn't the right poem. And so once I get rejected, what I do with, after the punch in the stomach, I send it out someplace else. Now, of course, I have to ask myself, is this the best work? Or does it need to say, have to reflect? Yeah, I have to reflect on that. I have to be honest with myself. It might have been best 3 months ago, but it may not be best today. So I do have to reflect on that. But boy, oh boy, it's like, I'm not going to let any moss grow under my feet with these poems. They're going to go right out again, right? Okay. And this is true. I aim for 100 rejections a year. So that means a lot of submitting. Last year, I only got 93 rejections. Failure. Yeah.
That's a double negative.
That's a double negative. There you go. Yeah, so that means a lot of submitting. But a friend of mine said you gotta throw the hat in the ring, if you want to win. And it's just all part of the game. And again, being an editor, I hated to decline anybody's work. But that's, some of the work was so bad. Some of it sucked. There was no way, and it wouldn't honor the writer to publish. That's true, And I had to keep remembering, I'm not serving that writer right now at where he or she is in her career if I publish them. So, okay, questions, comments?
So one of the writers has a goal setting group online called the Right Place, spelled with R-W-R.
Okay, what is it called? The
The
right?
Right Place?
Oh, the right.
Is in writing stories or whatever.
Okay.
And they celebrate rejections. And some of the people say, I collect rejection letters, and I got this many this week.
Let's turn it negative into a positive.
Yeah, and you know what? It may not be a negative, really. It's just, it wasn't the right place. And I just use that word home, that our work needs the right home.
And the right self-coaching that, maybe you need to look at what you're doing and where you're sending it.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing.
Right.
And maybe you want to step into a different avenue than you've ever stepped into.
Right.
And that's progress.
Precisely. So yeah, there is this 2 different schools of thought that if you're going to send to a journal, you need to study the journal. You need to study their aesthetic. And then there's the thought of shotgun approach. I take the shotgun approach because what has happened, and maybe some of you have had this experience, a publication will call for a theme, all right? I have the perfect one. It couldn't be more appropriate for their theme, and they sing. And then somebody else picks up, that didn't have that theme, somebody else picks up. So yeah, so I'm more, again, I'm lazy, and even some journals will say, our editors change. So that what was the aesthetic of one issue is not the aesthetic for the next issue. And that's a whole different ballgame. So that's just my thing. I throw lots of stuff out, and so some of this spaghetti will stick to the wall.
Well, to be fair, they're paying editors to hone to that aesthetic. You're just writing for free on your time, so you might as well send it out.
There you
Let the
go.
paid people spend their time deciding whether to take it out.
Yeah, or even, Nora, that's wonderful. Even at least 50 to 75% of the time, these are volunteers. These are people that have families and full-time jobs, and they're, who knows what kind of backgrounds they have, you know? So, right, so I'm keeping the spaghetti, you know, or the shotgun approach. Bingo, there you go. Okay, question or comment?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hey, Sheila, okay, let me go to Sheila, yeah.
I'm just wondering, you're aiming for 100 rejections a year. How many rejections on average do you get for each thing before it gets published?
That's a beautiful thing to ask. Probably my best one was, I forget whether it was 10 or 12 rejections. I believed in the poem. And finally I found the home, right? You're gonna see some poems a little bit later on. Two of them, I got accepted on the first time out. That's very rare, you know? And then I have another one I've already sent out 5 times. You know, and I'm gonna send it out 5 more until somebody says yes. So, yeah. So, you know, so it's believing in your work. Honestly, after evaluating, reevaluating, rethinking, maybe getting some opinion from somebody who plays tennis better than you, to see whether or not it's still good. Okay. All right, that's a great question. That is a great question. And, you know, and I'll just put this as an aside, for one poem that got accepted by a magazine I really wanted to be in, they held it for 13 years. 13 years. And I didn't even know that it was published until I got a check for $10 in the mail.
Oh my God. And with inflation, that amounted to.
Well, actually, this was back in what, 1990. So this was 1990. Okay, they had it 13 years, you know, and never told me. They asked me along the way if I wanted to withdraw it. And I said, no, I want to be in this publication. So
I want to draw interest.
I should, yeah, I probably started with $1 and then. Oh, yeah.
You accepted it too, probably now.
13 years, you still remember.
I still remembered it. Yeah, because I wanted to be in that publication. So I'm not telling you. I'm not saying. No, so it's one I'm proud of. But, no, it's yeah.
Why the secret?
Okay, it was the Christian Century. And it was a poem. I was a nun for 20 years, okay? And it was a poem where I'm standing on a street corner in Lakewood, New Jersey, where I was teaching at our college. I'm in habit, and along comes a little Hasidic boy with the earlocks. He comes up to me, and we're standing at a street light, busy road going by, and he says, "Cross me."
Is that what?
Cross me. Well, he meant the street.
The street.
Oh.
Oh.
You see? And so, yeah, and you know, and the poem was about, you know, I was being shocked because there was no, you know, father coming, because at that point, it was a wonderful Hasidic community and very colorful, you know, beside the Roman Catholic College and the Hasidic community. You know, they were not allowed to talk to us. And here, this little innocent child, okay? So there must have been something about this background of, you know, of the Jewish and the Catholic, that they waited. There must have been something going on historically that they wanted to wait until the time was right. Now I agree. Wow. Yeah, talk about today.
Wow.
So anyway, okay, enough about that. All right. Any other question before we, Sheila, do we need to take a break before we get to the next part, or what should we do? Yeah, bathroom break.
If people need one, but what do people want? We don't always take a break. We often just plow through.
Yeah, okay, can we, how about 5 minutes? Let's just do 5
Okay,
minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Great.
Everybody get up,
Thank you.
stretch, go to the bathroom, and then we do some poetry.
Yay.
Sorry.
Okay, yes.